The first time I noticed Alyssa, it was entirely by accident. I'd come to my ex's house to drop off the last few things she'd left at mine, a half-empty shampoo bottle, a hoodie I'd forgotten was hers until it felt like the scent of her had taken over my entire closet. Breakups were messy, but breaking up with Alex was like wading through quicksand. Every time I thought I was done, something else would drag me right back into the murky aftermath. But then Alyssa opened the door, and everything shifted. "Hey," she said, flashing me a grin that was all mischief, leaning against the doorframe in an oversized band tee and jeans that hugged her in all the right places. Her hair was tied up in a messy ponytail, a few strands falling around her face, and her dark eyes glinted with something that made my heart jump in a way it hadn't in a while. "Alyssa, hey," I stammered, gripping the box in my hands just a bit tighter. "Here to drop off the last of the junk, huh?" She tilted her head, her eyes flicking over the box, then back to me. "Alex isn't here right now. You want to wait?" I hesitated, but she was already stepping aside, holding the door open for me with a smile that felt a little too inviting. I walked in, setting the box down on the coffee table, and tried not to let my eyes linger too long on her. But she didn't make it easy. Alyssa had this way of moving that was casual yet intentional, each step bringing her closer, her gaze never leaving me. "So, how have you been?" she asked, her voice soft but edged with curiosity, like she genuinely wanted to know. "Better, I guess," I replied, suddenly hyper-aware of the silence between us. "And you?" She chuckled, and the sound made my heart skip a beat. "Honestly, bored out of my mind. Things are too quiet around here lately." She was close now, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her dark eyes, smell the faint trace of perfume on her skin. There was a warmth between us, something thick in the air that I couldn't ignore. "Wouldn't have guessed that," I murmured, feeling my pulse quicken as her gaze locked onto mine. The corners of her lips curled into a smile, and before I could second-guess myself, she leaned in, her hand brushing against mine as her lips found mine in a soft, teasing kiss. I froze, shocked but thrilled by the feel of her mouth on mine. But then I melted into it, pressing closer, my fingers tracing the curve of her jaw as our kiss deepened. Her hands found their way to my waist, pulling me even closer until there was no space left between us. She kissed me with a hunger that made my head spin, her lips soft and demanding, her fingers tracing slow circles on my lower back. It felt forbidden, dangerous even, kissing her here, in her sister's living room, but that only made the heat between us burn brighter. We broke apart for a moment, both of us breathless, our foreheads pressed together. "We shouldn't be doing this," I whispered, though my heart was already begging me not to stop. Alyssa smirked, her gaze smoldering. "Maybe not, but tell me you don't want to." I couldn't. Instead, I pulled her closer, my fingers tangling in her hair as I kissed her again, harder this time, like I could pour every confused, excited feeling into her. Her hand slid down to my hips, her grip firm, possessive, as she backed me against the wall, her kisses growing deeper, more intense. In that moment, nothing else mattered, no rules, no loyalty to my ex, no nagging doubts. There was only Alyssa and the way she kissed me like she'd been waiting for this as long as I had, her lips and hands exploring, discovering parts of me I'd kept hidden. "Come with me," she whispered, her voice thick with desire as she led me up the stairs to her room, closing the door behind us with a soft click. Once inside, we barely made it to her bed before she was kissing me again, her hands exploring my body with a gentleness I hadn't expected. She took her time, her lips tracing a trail from my mouth down to my neck, making me shiver with anticipation. Every touch, every kiss, felt like she was uncovering a part of me I hadn't known was there, and I couldn't get enough. We spent the night wrapped in each other, sharing secrets and soft laughter between kisses, our bodies pressed close as though we were trying to make up for lost time. And as dawn started to break, painting the room in soft, golden light, Alyssa looked at me with a sleepy smile that made my heart swell. "I think I've been wanting this for a while," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper as she traced lazy patterns on my arm. I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Me too," I whispered back, leaning in for one last kiss as the first light of morning washed over us, knowing that whatever came next, it would be worth every risk. Alyssa's room was quiet, the first light of morning creeping through her curtains, casting a soft, golden glow over her face. We lay tangled together, her fingers lazily tracing patterns on my shoulder. I hadn't planned for this, never imagined I'd end up here, wrapped in her arms. But now that I didn't want to let go. She looked at me, her dark eyes softened by the early morning light, and her hand reached up to cup my cheek. So, where does this leave us? I hesitated, not wanting to ruin the perfect moment, but her steady gaze drew the truth from me. I don't know, Alyssa. But I want to find out. A smile tugged at her lips. She leaned down, brushing her lips against mine in a gentle, lingering kiss. Good, she whispered, because I can't just pretend this didn't happen. I don't want to. Her words were enough to dissolve the last of my doubts. I slid my hand to her waist, pulling her closer until her body was pressed firmly against mine. Our lips met in a kiss that was slower, deeper than before, filled with all the things we didn't need to say out loud. She rolled on top of me, her fingers trailing along my arm as she gazed down with that playful smirk of hers. So, is this just a one-time thing? She teased, her voice low and soft. I shook my head, smiling up at her. Not a chance. Her laugh was warm and real, and it dissolved into a soft sigh as I pulled her down for another kiss, letting the warmth between us build all over again. She kissed me with a fierce tenderness that made my heart ache, her hands running down my sides, exploring, memorizing every curve and line. Her touch was deliberate, as if she wanted to take her time, and every brush of her fingers sent sparks racing through me. We spent the morning wrapped in each other, tangled in sheets and laughter, our kisses growing deeper and more intense as the sun rose higher. Hours passed without a single thought of anything else. With her, every touch felt like a promise, every kiss like an adventure waiting to unfold. As the morning drifted into afternoon, we finally made our way downstairs, hand in hand, both of us smiling at the thought of what we'd found together. And just as we reached the bottom of the stairs, the front door opened and there was Alex, my ex, staring at us, her eyes wide with shock. For a moment, silence fell over the room. My heart raced, but Alyssa didn't let go of my hand. Instead, she straightened, her gaze steady and calm as she looked at her sister. Alex, she said simply, her voice clear, I know this is a surprise, but I care about her. And I think she cares about me too. I swallowed, feeling my face flush, but I nodded. I do. I didn't mean for things to happen like this, but it's real, Alex. Alex looked between us, her expression a mixture of surprise and something else, maybe a touch of sadness, maybe a hint of understanding. After a tense moment, she sighed and nodded slowly. I never thought I'd see the day, she murmured, a faint, rueful smile appearing on her face. But, if she makes you happy, then who am I to say anything? Alyssa squeezed my hand, her face lighting up with relief and joy. Alex gave us one last, long look, then headed to her room without another word, leaving us alone again. Alyssa turned to me, her eyes brimming with happiness. See, she whispered, leaning close. Maybe this was meant to be. I kissed her softly, feeling the weight of everything we'd overcome melt away. Yeah, I murmured against her lips, I think so too. And with that, she pulled me back upstairs, where we spent the rest of the day in each other's arms, free from secrets, free to just be together. Every kiss, every touch, every soft murmur of my name made me feel like I'd finally found something that was truly mine, someone who saw me, wanted me, and cared about me just as much as I did her. From that day on, we were inseparable. Alyssa and I became each other's everything through stolen glances, late-night talks, lazy mornings, and endless kisses that made me forget where I ended and she began. And every time I saw that mischievous spark in her eyes, I knew that falling for her, even under impossible circumstances, had been the best decision I'd ever made.